Hello everybody, welcome to the ultimate Honkai Star Rail tier list of 1.0 until 1.6. This video took so many days of recording and editing at the same time, but this video will be posted before the 2.0 patch is live. So in this tier list, you will hear from a guy that have a decade of experience in turn-based and gacha game. So you can trust me with this tier list. But at the end of the day, this is all from a personal opinion. You can agree and disagree with this tier list. Anyway, in this tier list, I will make a bit different than anybody else. I will make this tier list in chronological order. What's that mean? Basically making a tier list of who's the Trailblazer see in their journey. For example, the first person the Trailblazer see is Kafka, and the second is Silverwolf. So like that basically, and it makes things more fun to record. So, are you guys ready to see this tier list? Well then, let's get to it. Okay, for the first one, of course, we must rate ourselves, the Trailblazer, but in the physical form. I will rate them at B tier. So, here's my reason. Well, for a DPS, he or she is not that great. I mean, it's basically our starter DPS before when we met Danheng. But for a destruction unit, there are way better destruction unit like right now rather than the physical Trailblazer. So yeah, I will put them at B tier. Next is Kafka, and she's S tier. Holy crap, already S tier from the start? That's crazy. So here's my reason. She is also a DPS but works differently than normal DPS. She is a DOT DPS that needs DOT support like Sampo, Guinaifen, Luca, or any character that can apply DOT with their basic attack, skill, or ultimate. Because without any DOT support, she cannot deal damage. Even though she can apply DOT by herself, that's not enough. Because the more DOT on the enemies, the more damage she deals. For example, Sampo. He is by far the best team for her because he can apply DOT with any of his attack like basic attack, skill, and ultimate. And after all those DOT on the enemy, when Kafka take a turn, use her skill and make those DOT explode and deal damage to the adjacent enemy. And not gonna lie, the damage multiplier she have is actually crazy. So yeah, she is deserved that S tier. Next will be Silverwolf, and she is double S tier. Okay, I don't think she needs an introduction how good she is. By far, still now, the best Nihility character in the game. And here's why. She can run with any team. She is that good, I am not joking. She can do a lot of things like debuffing defense, speed, and attack. And it's just from her basic attack. It's pretty RNG, but it's really good. And her skill is the best thing about her, because with her skill, she can apply elemental weakness to the enemy. For example, if you run a mono-quantum team, she will apply only quantum to the enemy that doesn't have a quantum weakness. But if you run a multiple element team, her skill will be RNG, so pray that she apply the correct element. And her ultimate is basically a giant defense stun to the enemy, which is super good. Yeah, she deserved that double S tier. Next up, we got my boy Danheng, Daniel himself, and I will put him in B tier, but not just any normal B tier, but the highest spot B tier. And here's why. He is our first free 4-star hunt DPS, and the hunt meant to do a lot of damage, and he did that. But he is not that special to the other hunt character, but at least in terms of damage, Danheng deal way more damage than Destruction Trailblazer. If you want to invest someone that is a DPS, I suggest Danheng as your starter DPS. Next will be March 7, and I will put her at A tier. And here's why. She is our first preservation unit, basically a tank, for free. And she's a pretty solid unit. First of all, her ult can freeze all enemies by chance. And her skill is basically her bread and butter. She can apply a pretty chunky shield to one of our allies. But the sad thing is that her shield will give provoke to that character that shielded. But March have a unique skill. She will do a follow-up attack when that enemy attack the character that shielded. Also, her follow-up attack doesn't even need to be her shield. Whenever a character protected by any shield, March will do a follow-up attack. That's pretty good. Holy, wow, that is kinda insane. She can do a follow-up attack whenever there is a shield. It doesn't even need to be her shield. That's crazy, but yeah, there's a cooldown to that. So yeah, she deserves that A tier. Next will be Arlan, and I will put him at B tier, but the lowest B tier. Okay, this gonna be quick. If I ever need to pick a TPS, I'd rather use Dan Heng rather than Arlan, because his skills are bad. I'm not gonna sugarcoating it. He's just plain bad. As much as I like the kid, there are a way better unit than him. Please do not use Arlan as your TPS because he can die easily. Even with a healer, I am not kidding. This kid is killing himself more than Blade. Like, this kid can achieve what Blade can't. That is dying easily. Holy, yeah, it's literally going to be at the lowest B tier. Yes, upcoming next will be Himeko. And sadly, I'm going to put her at B tier. Okay, hear me out. As much as she is broken at Pure Fiction, in Pure Fiction, I will literally just kinda put her at double S tier because she's crazy. But overall, as a normal TPS that is not restricted to just Pure Fiction, she is not that great. I mean, erudition is really not that useful in, well, many ways because they can't really deal damage, but it's not meant they are bad, it's just not overly used, like the Hunt or the Destruction. They are the superior DPS, meanwhile the erudition is kinda conditional, like Pure Fiction just fix what erudition cannot do. That is, make them useful a lot. Even Jing Yuan become way more viable than before. Like, Pure Fiction is the only thing that make erudition alive. So overall, she is B tier, but in Pure Fiction, she is double S tier. Next will be Asta, and I will put her at A tier. I mean, what can you say? She is our first ever Harmony character, and you can get her from just the tutorial summon. She can apply DOT and give speed buff to all allies with her ultimate. I mean, she's kinda cracked for certain teams. So yeah, she is A tier. Yes, next up will be one of my most favorite character in the entire Honkai universe. That is Welt. And I will put him at S tier. Okay, I do not really want to explain his background, but I'm just gonna say, without Welt, Honkai Star Rail will never exist. That's it. Okay, moving on to his skills. The things what make Welt is S tier because all of his skill is super good. Like, his skill can apply speed down to random adjacent enemy. Yes, it's random, but it's still good. And his ult is 100% give all the enemies imprisonment. That is crazy. If you only focus building him with effect hit rate and speed, the enemy will never ever have their turn. That's why he is S tier. Next will be Herta, and I will put her at B tier. Basically the same reason as Himeko. So yeah, she's a quick review. Next will be Mr. Scammer himself, Sampo, and I will put him at A tier. Okay, here's the reason. If you have Kafka, he is A tier or even S tier. But if you do not have Kafka, he is A tier or even lower. That's why he is by far the best DOT support for Kafka. But if you do not have Kafka, he is a pretty decent DPS, but please do not use him as DPS. There are way better ones. Next will be Gepard, and I will put him at S tier. bro cannot die. Like literally. Because he has a passive skill, when he die, he revive himself. That's crazy. But of course when he die again, that passive skill will not be activated. And that's not the only thing why he can't die. His ultimate can give shield to all allies, and he is a defense scaler. So if you have around 4,000 defense, he can give 6,000 to 7,000 shield, which is bonkers. Yeah, he is S tier, but why not double S tier if you ask? Because there is a much better preservation unit than him that I will mention later. And next will be Bronya, and she is double S tier. I do not need to explain. You must have Bronya. If you do not have Bronya, next time if you lose 50-50, pray it's Bronya. She is the best harmony character in the game. I mean, there is Ruan Mei, but she is limited. Meanwhile, Bronya is standard, and she is double S tier. I do not need to explain why. You just need to have Bronya, and you can make your game way easier. Next will be Serval, and I will put her at B tier. I mean, the reason is she is another erudition unit, but the thing is she is not great. As a DPS, you better off having Himeko and Herta rather than using Serval. As much as I like her character, she is not great at all. I mean, if you want a DOT amplifier, she can to support Kafka, but I don't recommend it because Sampo is just much a better DOT amplifier. So yeah, she is a B tier as a DPS or as a support. Next will be Pela, and I will put her at S tier. If you don't have Silver Wolf, you can use Pela as your defense shredder. But there is something Pela can do much better than Silver Wolf. She can defense down all enemies. Meanwhile, Silver Wolf can only do that to one enemy. Also, Pela's skill can remove one buff from one enemy, which is useful. Next is Natasha, and I will put her at A tier. For our first ever abundance character, she is a pretty solid unit. She can cleanse and heal, which is super good. Next will be Hook, and I will put her at B tier. But it's the same tier as Arlan. As much as I like her, you better off using physical Trailblazer rather than Hook. I am not kidding. Ah yes, this character where everybody almost do not know how to pronounce her name correctly. So I will help you out, even though the English VA already helped you out a bit. If you play on English, the pronunciation will be Zila or Zela, or whatever you want to call her. But for me personally, in Japanese, I rather call her Seele because I play Honkai in back third. Though there are no correct or wrong, you can use both of them if you want. Okay, for Seele, I will put her at S tier. Even as our first ever limited unit in the game, she's still S tier. But sadly, she get outshined by a 4-star character, which is crazy. But please do not get discouraged. If you like Seele, please pull her because she's still a very solid quantum DPS in the game. Next will be Clara, and I will put her at double S tier. Okay, hear me out. If you ever play Devil May Cry, she is basically Dante using Royal Guard. Because when the enemy attacked Clara, Svarog came in to protect her, and Svarog will just counter the enemy with his laser. Literally just Royal Guard. If you ever lose 50-50 to Clara, be glad because she is by far one of the most best DPS in the game. Ah yes, finally, we are at the end of the main story of Belobog. And the last unit we're going to review is ourselves, but in preservation mode. Preservation Trailblazer. I will put them at S tier, and here's why. If you don't want to gacha any preservation unit or not gacha at all, that's fine. Because Preservation Trailblazer can carry you until endgame. I am not joking, they are that good. Because they are just not a normal tank. They are also a pseudo DPS. So don't worry if you don't have any OP preservation unit, because Preservation Trailblazer got your back. Next will be Tingyun, and she is an S tier unit, So if you don't have Bronya, she is one of the best harmony character in the game to use. Because she can give you attack up, damage up, and energy recharge to one ally, which is insanely good. But there is something why she is the worst unit in the game. Because no matter how much provocation buff your preservation unit have, Tingyun always be the one that got attacked always and die first. With no spoiler, why is that a thing? Next will be Yukong, and she is also an S tier unit because if you don't have Bronya or Tingyun, you can use Yukong as your best buffer. But the best thing about her, she is free. You can get her after clearing some of the stages in Forgotten Halls. So invest her because it's so worth it. Next is Jing Yuan, and he is an S tier unit. Finally, our first ever erudition S tier unit. He is kinda of a mixed feeling, but with enough investment with the follow-up attack relic, he is actually a very solid erudition unit. Actually a viable, good damage dealer. And yeah, that's basically it why he's an S tier unit. Next will be Xuan, and she is a double S tier unit. Okay, hear me out. She is the only preservation unit that is super worth it to build rather than any preservation unit in the game right now. If you have her, please build her. You will not regret it. I do not need to say why. She is double S tier. That's all the review I can give her. She is a must-have, a must-build. Next will be Bailu, and she is an A tier unit. Okay, hear me out. If you guys confused which unit you guys want to build, Natasha or Bailu, I suggest you guys build both of them because they work differently. One, that is Natasha, provide more utility, and Bailu provide more healing. So building them both is worth it. Next will be Qingque, and she is an S tier unit. This is the 4-star quantum unit that I talk about that out-damage and outshine Seele. As much as she is RNG based with her skill, her damage multiplier is way higher than Seele. So yeah, that is the sad truth. Next will be my most favorite original character in the game. That is Blade, and he is the highest S tier unit in the game. Okay, here's my reason why. Basically, he is Arlan, but 20 times better than Arlan. Because this guy, after exchanging some HP, he got it back. Also, have a follow-up AoE attack. He can damage all enemy with his follow-up attack passive. That is crazy. He got his HP back, his damage multiplier is 20 or even 100 times better than Arlan. He's just that good. If you ever need to pull a DPS, I recommend it to pull for Blade. You will not regret it. Finally, we are down to our last main story character in the Shenzhou Luofu, and that is Heng IL, and he is double S tier. Here's why. If you guys care about meta, then Heng IL is for you. He is by far one of the best DPS in the entire game. But the only drawback he have is that he is very skill hungry. So you better have a lot of skill point to deal insane damage. And that is it for our chronological tier list. Now, we are moving to the side story, but this video has gone for long enough. So I will do a very quick speed run tier list of the side story characters. Are you ready? This is the tier list. Xuan, B tier. Luca, B tier. Wenaifan, B tier. Tanya, A tier. Shuiyi, S tier. Huohuo, S tier. Lynx, S tier. Topaz and Nambi, S tier. Dr. Ratio, S tier. Luocha, double S tier. Argenti, double S tier. Ruanmei, double S tier. Jingliu, highest, double S tier. And this is our final result. Well, would you look at that? There are no D or E tier. That's crazy. So, how do you guys feel about this tier list? As I said at the beginning, all of these are my own personal opinion. If you guys have a different opinion, that is absolutely fine. Well, that is it for now. If you guys like this video, give it some thumbs up and subscribe to this channel and turn on that notification bell so you will never miss another Honkai style video. This is Shiro's Drive, and I will see you guys next time. Adios.